Hi, I'm Danielle and welcome to my perfume journal. So you'll notice there are no perfumes on my tray right now, and that's because this video is all going to be about how I organize my samples. I had a few people ask to see how I do this, and so that's what this video is going to be all about. So after years and years and years of sampling perfumes and collecting samples, I have finally landed on an organizational system that works for me both space-wise and also keeps a nice rotation of samples coming in and out. Last year, I decided that I was going to stop purchasing samples very intentionally for the most part, unless something came along that really piqued my interest. And I did this because I was sampling so much that one, I wasn't even enjoying my own collection, and two, I wasn't even enjoying the perfumes I was sampling. I was just like blowing through them to try to smell all the things. And you cannot smell all the things no matter how much you love perfume. So now most of the samples that I bring in either come from swaps or perfume purchases, and a few here and there if I ask a sales associate for a sample very nicely. So before I get to how I keep my perfume samples organized now, I want to pull back the curtain and show you the many iterations of organization that I have tinkered with over the years and how that has turned into what I have set up now that I'm really happy with. And let me also say that I actually love organizing and reorganizing things. It's something that I have done ever since I was a kid, like books, Barbie dolls, record albums, craft supplies. So organizing my samples over time, I think, is like an extension of my personality and something I actually consider kind of fun to do. So I want to say I started sampling more heavily than just department store carded samples and things like that in maybe the mid 2010s when I first started figuring out what the niche stuff was all about. And I was really intrigued at that point by all the different types of scents I was exposed to, mostly through blogs, maybe a few YouTubers at the time. I kept them in a little drawer in my perfume cabinet. And then I started finding sites that sold one-off samples. And everything at that point still fit into this small little drawer. And as I was looking through old photos to make this video, I found this screenshot of a text my husband sent me, and it made me laugh so hard. And I feel like it's a really good transition into the level of ridiculousness that you're about to see my perfume sampling take. Okay, so what you see here is a day when I decided it was time to reorganize my samples yet again because they were multiplying like rabbits. And at that point, I had to move all the samples from the small drawer, which you can probably see here in the picture, into the larger drawer below it. And that should have been a sign to me to slow down, but no, why would I do that when there are so many more things to sample? So now the drawer starts overflowing. It's overflowing into boxes, bowls. Then I tried moving stuff that wouldn't fit into the drawer or the box or the bowl into these craft containers that I used to keep my nail polishes in, and these other small little craft containers. And I was putting labels on them. And again, this was this was getting ridiculous. The number of samples was really kind of getting out of hand. Then there was a little brief period of time when I experimented with these lipstick holders. I buy these to hold my travel size perfumes, but they did not work out for samples because one, it was hard to see the samples in these little sections, and it was really hard to get them out. And that was annoying me, so I just abandoned this as a potential organization system. These don't work well for samples, in my opinion. Okay, so we're getting closer to the final system. Right before I settled on my final organization system, I set up a shelf in my office just for the samples I wanted to try. I mean, come on, look at this. A whole shelf. Actually, there's 2 shelves in this photo. And at some point, I think it might have even gotten up to 3. And I had the samples on those tiered shelves that people put whole entire bottles of perfume on. And this was out of hand, totally out of hand. So this was literally the exact moment when I stepped back and I was like, what am I even doing here? I love perfume, but what is this? What is this? So I stopped buying samples completely. And that way, I really wanted to get back to enjoying them as both a way of learning about perfume more deeply and also maybe actually discovering a perfume that I might want to buy in the future. Okay, so this is the box. This is where I keep all of the samples that I haven't tried yet. So for now, the box is actually in overflow mode. I will show you that in a second. I'm still getting through all of the samples I collected when I was being ridiculous, but eventually I want to get to the point where any samples that won't fit into this box won't come into this house. I'm getting closer to all of my samples fitting in here, so I'm really happy about that. Since I haven't been buying samples, I've really started reducing the number of samples that I have. So now when I'm in the mood to sit down and try some samples, I will make a cup of tea. I will pull 1 or 2 samples out of the box. I will get out my journal and I will have a little sampling sesh. I really like to smell a sample before I even look up the notes. It's like a little challenge to myself to see what I get from the perfume and then compare it to the note list. Sampling this way has really enhanced my enjoyment of this hobby that I love so, so much. So this organizer is the remaining overflow of what doesn't yet fit into the box. So you can see that the compartment on the right is empty. That used to be full. So this is where I'm going to be transferring these samples into the pretty box that I just showed you. And eventually that will be all of the new samples that I have at any given time. So this is the basket where I keep all of my discovery sets, and everything that I have left in terms of discovery sets are sets that were either sent to me by very generous friends or that I won in giveaways. So I'm set with discovery sets for a good long while. Any discovery sets that I have personally purchased myself, I have either moved along to a friend or sold. So this is all that's left. And since the beginning of this year, I've gone through 2 really amazing discovery sets. One from Miskeo and one from Harem Green. And I think the next one I'm going to sit down with is in this basket. It's the one by Rhone. And I think those are all tea-based scents, so that should be fun to sample through. I also have these 2 small felt containers. One is for the perfumes that I've already sampled, but I need to set aside so I can make my perfume samples of the month video. And the other is just like a little container of scented body care samples like lotions and creams and things that I've gotten with purchases, usually when I'm on those vacations going wild. So in my perfume sample organization system, I have 2 bowls. This is the bowl where I put all of the samples that I decide I really want to wear all the way through. I want to use up the entire sample myself. And this bowl is so special to me because it actually belonged to my grandmother. And so when I try a sample on the blotter and then on my hand, I usually have a pretty good idea of whether I want to give that perfume a proper wear. And I also made a little rule for myself that I would wear a sample at least 3 times before deciding if it was going to go on the wish list, because then otherwise my wish list gets just as unruly as my sample collection. And I can't smell all the stuff. I also can't buy all the stuff. So every week I'm trying to pull a sample or 2 out to put on my tray so I can actually wear them. Or, sometimes I might also just be in the mood to pull a sample out of the bowl, even if it's not on the tray. And right now I would say there's about 20 samples or so in here. Some of them have been in here for a pretty long time and I don't really reach for them. So I could probably go through this bowl, cut this stash like in half at this point, and just keep the samples that I really do want to wear. Recently, I finished my samples of Bouquet Encore from L'Orchestre Parfums and Narciso Ambre from Narciso Rodriguez. And I think the next samples I'm going to focus on are Eau de la Narcisse from Physotic. That one I can definitely see, probably ending up on the wish list. That was like an instant love. And I also want to wear Macanudo from Maison Detto. Okay, this is the second bowl of samples. This bowl did not belong to my grandmother. This is like a cheapo I got from Target years ago. So if I sample a perfume and I really don't think it's for me, like I don't want to wear it completely for a full day or a full evening, I put it aside into this declutter bowl. And I usually don't declutter my samples immediately because sometimes I might get the urge to give it another try. But once I am ready to say goodbye to a sample, it goes into the bowl. And I will usually give my decluttered samples away to a family member, to a friend. One of the things I never do is I never sell samples that I've gotten in swaps. I only pass those forward. But if I purchase samples, I may resell them like on a secondhand site, just like I might do if I want to declutter a bottle that I've purchased. And a couple of samples that I just added to my declutter bowl are Serge Lutens Écrin de Fumée and Miller Harris's Staccato. So in these 2 organizers, this is where I keep my referential samples. These are either like discontinued perfumes, vintage perfumes, or really, really good samples of high quality perfumes that I loved. Didn't put on my wish list, but I kind of wanted to hang on to them as a point of reference. So like some examples would be, I have some of Christophe Laudamiel's line, The Zoo, my favorite of which is Dangerous Curves, which is a really awesome vintage style floral. I have the entire original line of samples from État Libre d'Orange, and I have some beautiful classics in here like Guerlain's Vetiver and Cartier's La Panthère. So these are a little bit hard to see what's inside, but I will explain them. On the left is a box of what I call unicorn samples that I keep hidden away in my perfume cabinet in a dark, dark drawer. These are samples of what I consider the most special perfumes. Most of them are discontinued. Well, all of them are discontinued. This is where I have samples of Midnight Poison, Vivienne Westwood's Boudoir, the original Synthetic Jungle by Frederic Malle before they renamed it, and a little bit left of the gorgeous Alien Essence Absolute. It's my favorite in the Alien line. I would love to have a bottle of that one day. And my very favorite unicorn sample in here is a sample of the Miss Piggy perfume that a friend of mine shared with me. It's awesome. And on the right are 2 containers that have literally the most special perfumes that I own in my whole entire collection. These are first run samples of perfumes that 3 friends of mine who are perfumers were working on at the time. They sent them to me. They asked me to share my thoughts and impressions with them about their perfumes in progress. I will never, ever, ever give these away. I will never lose them. I think it is such a privilege to be asked by a perfumer to review their work while they're still working on it. And you're just like a regular person, like a regular perfume enthusiast person. I mean, nothing could be more special to me. And so those 2 little containers are my most prized possessions. And finally, this is what I got the most questions about in my last perfume sample video. This is the perfume graveyard. Okay, so I might actually need to add another plot to the cemetery pretty soon because these are pretty full. So what goes into the perfume graveyard? Okay, so on the left in the green container, these are all of the perfume samples that I've actually finished up. Some of them ended up as full bottles in my collection, some of them didn't, but these are all of the samples that I actually wore. And on the right, in the glass container with the dark lid, these are the duds. These are mostly samples that have either like evaporated. I had them so long, they were like decanted samples, either from friends or that I ordered. And they do tend to do that even if they're sealed well. Or maybe it's a dud because I didn't like it and there wasn't really enough left in the vial to pass along to someone else to see if they might enjoy it more. And I mean, I could just throw them away, but I don't know. It's like, these are like it's like a little perfume museum. Maybe I should rename this from the graveyard to the museum and these can be my archives. But the funny thing about it is the one on the right, if I lift that lid up and give that whole container a smell, it smells amazing. So the duds, even the duds smell amazing. So, but this is it. This is my system. This is how I organize all of my perfume samples. I'm actually really, really happy with how I have it set up now. I can see all of my samples. That makes me want to reach for them more and actually wear them. I love sitting down to have a little sniff sesh at a slower, more enjoyable pace. And this is kind of how I keep everything in order. This is my hobby. This is what I love to do the most. And so this is how I spend my free time. I hope this was interesting to you, maybe even a little bit helpful. And I would really be interested to hear how other people keep their samples organized. Given how much I organize and reorganize my samples, this could look totally different in another year. I feel like perfume bottles are really easy to organize, but samples are like another story altogether. Okay, so from my samples and I to you, thank you so, so much for watching. I appreciate you being here, spending your time and chatting perfumes with me, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.